years. But why can't he do with the Giants exactly what he did in Pittsburgh?
He could, but the rest of the team's not as good.
But so that's the part I don't know that I agree with you on. I think that
the coach is not nearly as good.
Well, the coaching's different, right? We have seen Daboll achieve at a high level on the offensive side of the ball. No, I'm not. I am not putting him with Tomlin. I agree with you. But I don't look at Brian Daboll as a nincompoop coach. Like, you know what I mean? The point I'm making is, like, the Giants' skill position guys are as talented as the Steelers' skill position guys. The Giants have a slightly worse running game than the Steelers did last year, a better star receiver. Neighbors is better than Pickens, and so, like, there is that. The offensive line, once you get Andrew Thomas back, which you will have, is, to me, they are both, average-ish offensive lines. At least that's what they hope. The Giants should have a dominant defensive line. The Steelers have T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward, but they went out and got Brian Burns. They have multiple first-round picks there. They obviously need a ton of help on the back end. I get that. The point I'm making is I don't look at them as contenders or anything. But I think sometimes when we talk about the Giants, we underplay that if you there's such a big difference between getting the league's 20th best quarterback play and the league's 30th best quarterback play. And the Giants for the last 2 years have gotten bottom 3 quarterback play. Just impossible to compete with. And so if Russell Wilson plays at the level that he did last year, could the Giants hover around 500 like the Steelers did? The Steelers had a different thing, but they were 500 with Russ. It was just a weird trajectory there.
I like that.
I think that I don't think that, especially if you add at number 3,
add 3 Abdul Carter or
Travis. Sorry, buddy.
What?
But I think it would be Travis Hunter because they've spent all that money on their defensive line already. You add Travis Hunter.
That would be interesting.
It wouldn't be nothing.
Well, and that's the thing. First off, you're not comparing Brian Daboll to Mike Tomlin because you're going to compare Brian Daboll to Arthur Smith, who's the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And yes, I believe Brian Daboll is definitely of a better offensive mind. So comparing Mike Tomlin at that point, that really doesn't make sense when you're trying to figure out how can the quarterback in Russell Wilson play in Pittsburgh compared to New York. So Mike Tomlin has nothing to do with that offense. So that's that. So that's why I said in my previous Giants videos about this move is that, like, yeah, I think Wilson and Daboll can, like, actually have legitimate success together. But again, it's this whole short-term versus long-term, which I don't want to keep unpacking because I don't want to kind of keep repeating that. But the difference, the harder thing that the Giants have that the Steelers did not is, first off, you went up against the Cincinnati Bengals, who obviously trash defense. Yeah, Joe Burrow and a great offense. We know trash defense. Then you have the Cleveland Browns, just a disastrous of a season and just an absolute mess. And then you have the Baltimore Ravens, who are obviously a great team, but also inconsistent. Their whole thing was like the Steelers can't beat, or the Ravens can't beat the Steelers for whatever reason, Lamar Jackson, et cetera, which was, finally kind of broken, so to speak, but, still kind of a thing that he had to deal with. The Giants have in the division both the NFC championship game teams. You have the Super Bowl team in the Philadelphia Eagles and the NFC championship game, other opponent, other team, in the Washington Commanders. And say what you will about the Dallas Cowboys, at least once Dak's there. Listen, I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be this great team, but they're not a guaranteed trash garbage. Okay, give us, when we play them, that's an easy 2 wins either. So this is a very hard, this would be very hard division. Just the sheer fact that you have the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles there is already kind of speaking volumes about that. And again, look no further. The Eagles beat the Steelers, beat the Bengals, and beat the Ravens. So they beat everyone out there, and they beat the Browns. So they beat that entire division. So like there you go. So that alone is just going to be harder to then kind of get some of these wins, get to the playoffs, etc., etc. It's not to say that they won't, not to say that they can't, Depending on how the draft goes and depending on Russell Wilson's health and, kind of longevity of the season itself, I think that they could actually win some games and be some trouble for even like teams like the Eagles and the Commanders. Again, it's not like trouble in the sense where I'm like, oh man, the Giants can win the division. I'm sorry, I just don't see that. But I could still see them being like problematic and troubling. I would be excited to actually see what Russell Wilson can do with Brian Daboll. Actually, I mean, Brian Daboll had to do God's work with Daniel Jones. And with a mess of a GM and a mess of a team that's just being run just like a clown show. I'm trying to think of better words because I feel like we overuse clown show, but like it's a clown show. It's a mess. And he was able to win a playoff game with Daniel Jones. It's pretty impressive at the end of the day when you think about it. And he turned Daniel Jones into a quarterback that even had a semblance of talent. And there were moments, like, for instance, the Giants versus the Cowboys. Like, they should have won that game, but, like, Daniel Jones couldn't just throw the ball, like, 8 yards. He just couldn't throw, like, an 8-yard completion. Like he just, like, couldn't do fundamental football. Say what you will about Russ, but, like, Russ is a seasoned veteran. He won the Super Bowl. Like he obviously, he might not be what he once was, but, like, he is still a quarterback in the NFL, a worthy starting quarterback in the NFL. The biggest reason why people even question that is really just because of his age at this point, and he's kind of flirting with, like, am I done? Am I not? Am I done? Am I not? And so you're mentally, you're kind of just like, I don't know, is it worth it? But if he was like 25, there would be a lot of people who was like, there's a lot to like about this kid. There's a lot to like about this kid. But since he's not a kid, he's a man, and we know his track record and any of the other stuff, people kind of look at Russ through a more narrow lens than need be. But if we just look at it pure football based, yeah, he was a big part why the Steelers were able to win some games and their offense completely turned around. And he's obviously going to be a massive upgrade at the quarterback position. At the minimum, he's actually just a seasoned veteran. And this is what I kept saying about Russ all last year as well, that he actually at a minimum just knows how to run an offense. He knows how to run and operate an offense, which is just something that people still just don't fully appreciate. And it comes with being a seasoned veteran. And when you have a coach who has a lot of things that he wants to do offensively, like Brian Daboll does, you need an operator. You need someone who can execute the offense. Now, maybe Russ is there's more to Russ being, kind of, because there was kind of the whole thing with Arthur Smith and Russ that they didn't see eye to eye and there were some issues and he didn't like that he was changing the plays. And, maybe Russ still kind of thinks that he knows better. Maybe that's a real thing. And then that kind of becomes a problem with Brian Daboll. I mean, I don't know. It's too hard to really know from the outside looking in. You just don't know exactly what's going on practices, who's calling the plays in the huddle at that point, when a play is necessarily being changed, ignored, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the easiest thing to see when you're just kind of sitting back watching on TV. But I would be interested to see kind of the relationship between Brian Daboll and Russell Wilson. And so I do think that there would be legitimate short-term success. My whole argument continues to be, what's the bigger plan? Because the bigger plan is obviously not Russell Wilson, and the team is not good enough. It's one thing if this roster was really, really, just stacked and just ready to pop, and you're like, all right, we can bring in Russ, like we can win 11, 12, 13 games, and who knows, let's go. Like that's just not the team that you're at, especially when you're in the division that you're in. So that's why I kind of honestly keep going in circles with this move, because it's just like, what are we trying to accomplish here? But if we're gonna look at it in an absolute vacuum and in a single year, yeah, I could totally see Russell Wilson having Pittsburgh Steelers level success with the New York Giants. But I do think it'll be a harder road because they have to face the Philadelphia Eagles twice and the Washington Commanders twice. That alone is, harder than what he had to face going up against the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens are going to be their best opponent. But, even that, Lamar kind of has a little bit of voodoo going on with Mike Tomlin. So even that kind of there was a little bit of a benefit. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Russell Wilson with the New York Giants? What type of level of success do you think is fair? And what type of level of success do you think, you're predicting with the Giants and Russ? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.